We are live.
We are live. We're back. And
Welcome back in the show. Lenny is
you may,
also here. There.
Lenny's hiding in the background. Say hello,
Nice.
Lenny.
Everyone.
Checking the comments and saying things in between when we do say wrong things. So that's
Yeah,
actually the
we're
plan
like,
here.
we're the
Uh,
puppets. Lenny's
yeah,
the master controller.
yeah. Okay, Dave, how
Indeed.
are you?
Yeah, well, I'm back in sunny Scotland. It actually is sunny today, and you're in Beale because we've just got back not that long. In fact, only a few days from being in Dallas at the Wind Up Fair, which was a great little event, it has to be said. First time ever the Wind Up's been in Dallas, in Texas. Usually they're in New York, New York, San Francisco, and Chicago, and they got themselves to Texas this year. And I think it's fair to say, Andy, we were blown away by the audience, a really engaged audience who were pretty happy to be there.
Yes, definitely. By the way, how is the sound?
Yeah, someone
Can
in the
anybody check
maybe
that?
someone in the chat.
Yeah,
Someone in the
we
chat
need
let us
someone
know.
to check that and give us a thumbs up if the sound is okay, because last time we messed up big time on the sound. I checked it again and I said, nobody understands actually anything. Why do people not freak out and shout that there's something wrong? And I think I figured out what it was. I had two microphones in my OBS mixing TV studio thing set to the wrong direction.
We've got the first comment, Andy. Texas style. They noticed our
Texas style.
hats.
Yeah, yeah.
They noticed our hats.
So should we talk about that right away?
Maybe we can
Or, I mean,
just
you're
talk
the
about
guy,
that
yeah?
before. Let's talk about that before we get fully deep into what this live's about. But yes, indeed, as we mentioned, we were over in Texas at the Wind Up Fair, and we got to see an all-new audience. First time, as I mentioned, that we've ever, or that show's ever been in Texas. And I think there was about 40 brands there. Really cool venue. And I think, Andy, at one point there was a queue that was all the way out the car park, onto the street and down the
Insane.
street with folk waiting to get in. Absolutely insane.
I think they're
Luckily, though,
underserved. They're really underserved down there. And
yeah,
we had
absolutely.
no clue. It was the first time that I ever went close to Texas. And we all have how do you say that? We are preoccupied with our opinions. But I have to say, the people are incredibly relaxed there. It's really
Yeah,
an incredibly relaxed place. And yeah, it's a little bit dry for someone who's coming from the mountains like me, probably not so used to a flat thing, but you're getting used to it. And we were driving around, and of course, you're ending up in what's the name of the shop? In the head shop. We tried
oh,
two.
was it
One was in Fort Worth.
old Bills? Was it Old Bills, something like
Yeah,
that,
Old
or
Bills,
something, some Old
directly in
Bills?
Dallas West Side kind of thing. And you walk
Yeah.
into that store, and you know that you will go out with a hat
Oh,
for sure.
all I was going to say was the guy was the consummate salesman. He could literally have sold a hat to a guy who owns all the hats. He would still buy a hat from this guy. In fact, I think you put a little video up on your Instagram of the video you took of
Yeah,
him explaining how to look after your hat.
yeah.
He was super good. Yes, I went in to have a look. I'm not usually a hat guy. I don't usually suit hats. And he
But
managed to get me to walk out
that's
the
the
shop.
hat. I mean, your hat has a little story, yeah? When someone shot
Yeah,
someone
this is
else,
the
that's the police guy hat.
Yeah, apparently this is the hat that the Texas police were wearing when maybe someone quite famous and in charge got shot many years ago whilst in Texas. Maybe not their finest hour, but yes, this was the hat that the policemen were wearing, and I thought that actually suits me. It doesn't touch my ears and make them stick out like most
Yeah,
hats do. And I look at Andy. I mean, is Andy not just fully embracing Indiana Jones? There is no other way to describe him. He is the consummate adventurer. That's what he is all about. But yeah, so we
I like it.
really enjoyed our time. Really enjoyed our time there. The crowds were amazing. We got to meet some amazing people as well. In fact, on the Monday we spent a bit of time going over to Fort Worth, and we went to actually one of the clients that we met at the show invited us over to his business where he's in the boat business, and we got to learn a little bit about boats, something that is completely different to what we do, but weirdly in so many ways quite similar. Same challenges, same kind of ideas going on, same good things, bad things in business. But yeah, really interesting to talk with him. But Andy,
Definitely, we will come back to there. I
we
think
will.
it's a fun place. I'd like
And
to
if you
see
did
more
miss
of
it,
that.
if you did miss it, we will be there later in the year. I think, though, slightly different city in Texas. I think it'll be Austin, where we're
Mhm.
going to be at the Intersect event. So that's coming up. If I remember rightly, I think it might be in November, September, October, November. In fact, you'll be able to check out our website very soon, because we are in the middle of creating an event section for the website that will actually list all the events that we're going to be going to, where they are, the website you can go to get tickets if you need to, the dates will be there, and all the information that you'll need. So yeah, do check that out. Hopefully that should be live, I think, maybe in the next week to 10 days, and it'll be within the event section on the side menu bar. So do check that out. And we've got a lot of events on this year. So we'll be in the US multiple times, we'll be in Europe, the UK, we'll be in Asia. So we're going to be all over the place. And we will talk about that a bit later on. But
And buy
Andy,
more
come on.
hats, cowboy boots,
Oh,
pants, jeans,
you and your
and stuff.
boots, you were so
Yeah.
close to buying those boots, so close to buying those boots. But
I
yeah,
said I
that was
need to
a,
leave something for next time. When I'm coming
yeah,
back, I need to walk into that place again, talk to the guy again, and then probably upgrade my wardrobe with a pair of cowboy boots.
yeah, you need
Probably
to get
also
those.
need a horse.
Yeah, you also need rid of those skinny fit jeans that you were wearing as
Yeah,
well, because they were not going well with those cowboy boots. That was not a great look. But yes, let's see what happens next time. But all of
but
these
we need
people that
the
have
yeah
joined us,
yeah
all of these
not
people that
because
joined
we
us,
talk about our hats.
we don't want to talk about hats. We want to talk about the big event, the big news that's gone on over the last 4 or 5 days, in fact. And that, of course, is the launch of not just one, but two products. We have launched a new caliber, the K3. That was launched last Tuesday, in fact, a week ago today. And on Thursday last week, 2 days later, we did launch the first watch to be powered by that K3 caliber, the DECAFLUX. So you can see on the header image, but maybe Andy, you can flick to the first slide, because I think the first thing we want to talk about before we get into the watch
Where do we
is a
come
little
from?
bit about the caliber, where we came
Yeah,
from and why we do it. So yes, we are the brand that is known almost more than any for kind of doing things the opposite way around. We got into movements and engineering movements almost before we got into doing watches. And that's not usually the way things are done. Most folk maybe get into doing movements after having produced watches for many, many years. But we decided to do things differently. And of course, that all started off with the original K1 caliber that hopefully you can see on your screens that's up there now. But yeah, that is the original caliber. Andy, how many years and how much kind of heart, blood, sweat, and tears went into that?
conceptualizing started in 2008, I would say, and then trying to get it going 2015. So 7 years, 6 years, 7 years, and then after that it started to get better and better, and then we continued to actually industrialize it, make the first big quantity between 16 and 2018, and in 2016 I mean, it's a long time. You're talking about 10 years time frame where you think you make something and then you must guess into the future, especially when you make something new. We cannot just build some existing calibers and be the copycat guys and this kind of stuff. So we had to conceptualize this K1 very early, but we were a little bit restricted by our first initial thinking. The 25.6 platform, we thought we are exchanging movements with something else, but afterwards, 15 years later, I would say that was not the right decision. And in between, we recognized already that the market is shifting. We need probably to come up with something which has additional flexibility, and that was the birth of the K2 micro rotor concept, which somehow came into being at around 2016. Yeah, that's when we started to think about. We were involved in a lot of other projects at this time, and then it took step by step. And during COVID, it actually accelerated. But in between that, we also had to come up with a turbo.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. If you flip to the next slide,
yeah,
maybe Andy,
here.
then
So that was
that'll
the
be,
K2 movement, which
yep.
was an accident. It's a flying tourbillon made of titanium, full silicon, spring, 120 hours, 5 days power reserve, all you want to have in life. And that, some people still remember, that was actually not our own movement in the beginning. We wanted to buy that from a friend who was running a company And then that whole thing went somehow sour, and we had to decide, okay, so there's COVID, there's anyhow nothing to do. Let's make that by ourselves because we can't otherwise get the improvements we want to have into that movement. And a lot of the movements today we see today are actually still not improved in their performance. Yeah, there's one company, namely down the road, the Crown, and there's another one which is the Omega thing. They are really innovating on that space, and I think the rest is very often building on some very old platforms, some very old technology, and that's what we didn't want to do. So we made this Tourbillon based on our toolkit and based on the idea of modularity, and that actually brought us really to the next level. And then the logic next step would have been, of course, putting a tourbillon together into a micro rotor, which is I would say the king's class. Do you call it like this? The Königsklasse?
Yeah, I think it's the
You know?
premium class or the king or queen of the chessboard, so to speak.
Yeah, and we were already thinking about that when we conceptualized K2, that there might be the need to put in a tourbillon cage and that this must come together and all follows the same mentality. Probably let me push in another slide for the technical people here who want to listen and hear something about that. You know, we are talking very often about modularity. Here it is, my beloved modularity thing. So in the old days, we have just built some movements and we slapped something on top, and then the ground went down, and that's how actually things were being built. And then we created the integrated K1 movement, recognized halfway through our journey that there might be the need for further flexibility, also because the whole machining technology has been changing. And then we went into a semi-integrated platform, which is the basis, the origin of K2. And you see that green little thing here, that is actually a micro rotor. And surprise, surprise, then there is a bigger one, and people have heard about that. That finally we ended up with something called K3. And that is
Absolutely.
born out of this platform idea, out of this engineering platform, in order to make sure that we do not start from zero all the time again. And with this K3 movement, let me move in here. That is actually the final, yeah, or that is the, how do you say that, the culmination of our work. And we knew already that we are going to have a center rotor. When we are phasing out K1, we must work on something which is actually has a different focus. You know, K2 is a very sophisticated machining exercise, so we put a lot of effort into bringing down machining time in order to make that also a little bit more accessible when it comes to consuming of machining time, because that's the expensive part. But at the same time, we share a lot of important parts from all our other movements in order to, first of all, stabilize quality, second of all, increase quantity over all movements at the same time. And that is, I think, our strength. That's something which no other movement company in this industry I can think of is doing so consistent like we do that, modularizing the
Yeah.
whole thing.
And I think it's fair to say over the kind of learnings that we've been through K1, K2, the tourbillons to the K3, you know, the idea to go fully integrated was on paper at the time the thing that we felt would be the way forward. But then that also had some drawbacks in that, as you mentioned, if you want to change something, you almost have to go back to the start again because it's all been fully integrated. So this semi-integrated platform that we now operate with is absolutely a way to allow us to have that future proofness built into it whilst maintaining, you know, the really slim profile that will cater for the vast majority of uses that caliber will be put to. We've also been asked, you know, the K3,
Dave,
does the
a
K...
quick
Yeah,
sound check. Someone said I need to make myself louder. I just
yeah,
did
if you bring
that,
yourself up a little bit,
and I think it should be okay now.
let's ask. I think it was
You see
actually
that? Yeah,
Dario was saying. So
yeah,
Dario, feedback if Andy's volume's better
yeah.
now.
Good.
But back to the story, you know, people have said, so the K2 and the K3, what's the kind of relationship there? Now they are calibers designed for quite different purposes. Obviously, the K2 is a micro rotor, and it is altogether a more expensive platform to produce. Obviously, having a micro rotor keeps it extremely thin. In fact, with the most basic variant being time only, it does let us get down to under 3 millimeters, so 2.9 millimeters with that caliber in the time only with seconds or sub-seconds, and only 3.6 millimeters still fully featured with AM, PM, power reserve, GMT, all sorts of things. So altogether, it is a more advanced, a more premium caliber. But the downside, of course, of that is that it means that the price of the watches that are powered by the K2 do sit at a price point typically from the 5,000 Swiss francs up the way. And what we wanted to really do was, how do we bring our kind of workmanship and advanced technologies into the chronometry of a caliber that can be used to power watches in the, let's say, 2,500 to 5,000 Swiss franc caliber. And that's what the K3 is all about. This brings all of the learnings that we've had from all of our previous movements and calibers, and what it's allowed us to do is bring that into a product that on the face of it looks slightly simpler, but has got all that technology baked in, but it's super stable, super kind of reliable, and a lot of work went into making it more simple to produce. And that sounds like a bad thing, but it really isn't, because in watchmaking, trying to make something complicated simple is one of the hardest things you can do, especially while trying to maintain stability, trying to maintain reliability, your chronometry, your accuracy. And let's not be beating about the bush. This is a movement that's just over 4 millimeters in thickness. It is a 30 millimeter planform. It's got full silicon technology. You've got the silicon hairspring, the pallet, and the escape wheel.
Do I have a
And you've got
slide
full
for that
COSC
actually?
certification.
I think so. There
So
should be
do
a
we have a
slide for
slide? You
that.
may have a slide there. So yeah, this is
Yeah,
Andy's got
here we
up
go.
on the screen showing you the K3. This is a live running movement. And again, this is a caliber that's going to be in watches that are going to be delivered from as soon as June this year. So Andy's kind of going to put some stuff up that shows. So really the idea behind this is to allow people who are looking to buy watches in that 2,500 to 5,000 Swiss franc category access to a movement that really gives them all the performance that we feel should be on offer at this price level. And
the funny thing is, this industry is, I mean, the majority of this industry is offered movements which have been designed 50 years ago, and they put it in a new watch, newly designed, and that would be as if you buy a new car and put
a
a
1950s
Volkswagen
engine.
Beetle air-cooled engine into it.
Yeah, it's almost as if they improved the looks of the car, but it still was a Model T Ford underneath.
Kind of
It's
thing. And
it's
I
using
mean,
an old technology, and yes, let's not knock our competitors. They make a particularly decent product, but has it stayed up to date? We don't really think so. We think what we're doing here is bringing all of the technical features and performance that really should be in movements and calibers powering the watches in this category, but hasn't to this date really been available or been in there. And we really feel that this is,
I think
bringing.
it's fair. It should be fair. I mean, we are in the business of a hobby, as I always say, and people
Yeah,
spend a lot of money on watches from companies, and the companies should do all they can to make a very good product. And a very good product means a product which is up to date. And we have to accept that the big guys, down the road again, they are
yeah,
making pretty damn good products. And they are making not only just nice outside looking products. When you look deep inside, it is full of tech. It is everything in there of modern and advanced manufacturing. Probably not always as risky innovative, because they don't like to change stuff. But when you look carefully and when you look closely, you have to say this is a different level of movement which sticks into such a Rolex watch or an Omega watch. And we have to make sure that the rest of this industry doesn't fall back because actually everybody is building on 50 years old stuff. That can't be the future of what we are doing here. So we thought, okay, we have to do that and we have to improve that. And honestly, I also, it's okay if you buy a vintage product and it's a vintage engine inside. Yeah, but it's not okay to make a vintage product, a replica, and then put something old inside. That's not okay. I mean, vintage,
yeah,
vintage inspired, but then also old crap inside. That's not okay.
Absolutely. And what we absolutely don't want to happen is there to be another quartz crisis moment in the future. You know, the mechanical watch world was caught off guard by a technological leap, which happened to be the quartz watch, and it very nearly killed the mechanical watch world. And what we don't want to do is find ourselves settling back into, but it's okay, we can just produce the same things and we can carry on the way we always did it. We want to innovate, we want to stay cutting edge. And, you know, as we've talked about previously with microreg and with all of our technologies there, we want to get mechanical watches as close as we possibly can to ultra high accuracy that really can then be in a place to compete with the most accurate non-mechanical watches. We'll never quite exactly get there because at the end of the day it's a mechanical instrument, but you have to innovate, you have to move forward, you have to spend the time and utilize people's brains. You know, there's lots of super intelligent people out there that maybe haven't realized yet that the watch industry might be a place for them, because there's lots of innovation, there's lots of things we can do. So yeah, let's kind of embrace moving forward and doing new things and not
Shall we have a
necessarily
look
just
into that
sitting.
slide, which you also prepared for me?
Yep, let's have a look. What's
Because we
coming up
don't
next?
do, I mean, you know, making movements at the end of the day, I always say it's a shit business. Just to be simple,
Yeah,
you know, it's not exactly the thing you think about first time when you want to spend a lot of money on investing something. Probably you better buy yourself a couple of holidays and nice cars and anything else before putting all the money in movement. So
yeah,
we are obviously too small by ourselves to use all that know-how and build all this infrastructure. So that is, and it was always on the horizon for us to start to, or to try to do it in a way, you know, we have been doing this ENG 300 for Bremont, setting up this. We have been developing for many other companies. Some people don't know that, but they will know sooner or later movements and movement technology. And at the end of the day, everybody who has something to do with movements sooner or later will show up in Solothurnstraße 1 and have a look at what we are doing. And also, not only the suppliers and the ones who are in the movement game, but especially the ones who actually run brands, independents, and not only independents, but also bigger companies. But until today, except the Bremont case, we have pretty much always refused to do that. Why is that like this? Because you need to be ready to provide a core of a product to someone. You need to be able to handle stuff. You need to be able to handle trouble when it comes around, because at the end of the day, it falls back to us. So we need to be very stable and very strong in our know-how stack in order to just give a movement to someone else, because it's not just a movement. There's adaptation, there's new process coming. You need to train a whole company. You need to train the infrastructure of a company outside of the four walls, somewhere in retail level, in order to be able to deal with that new product in the product line. So it always sounds so easy to give a product to someone else. No, it's not. But this case, K3, we had a strong eye on this, and we feel now ready to work with other companies to make projects together and give these companies access to movement technology, which then gives them this, or they save their own learning curve by taking over our know-how. But that doesn't mean we are just selling a movement. You know, it must always be something, it must be a collaborative project. I'm not sending out the price list for someone who wants to buy a movement. I want to see that this company who is thinking about using our product, that they take the whole thing very serious. And at the end of the day, they are interested in acquiring movement making know-how in certain areas, probably not everything, but in certain areas. And that's for us the next first step, I would say,
yeah,
and we will see what comes around with that. And of course,
yeah.
that movement is also microREC compatible. We don't introduce technology like microREC in order to make that just for us. That's unrealistic. I mean, we have to be clear. You need a little bit of quantity down the road in order to
They
scale and
are,
stabilize everything.
yes. But Andy, the crowd are getting impatient. The crowd are demanding watches. So
Yeah.
yes, let's move on to the bit that actually they're all here for, the DECAFLUX watch. Obviously, if you have any questions about the K3, if you want any kind of more in-depth technical questions, please do put them into the comments. And of course, you can see there, lostintime@horage.com is where you can find out. Drop us an email and we can answer any of your questions. And of course, if you are a brand or if you're interested in finding out more about that kind of collaborative, collective type mentality with this caliber, please do let us know. But yes, the watch, this is what it's all about. We launched the DECAFLUX watch, the first watch to be powered by the K3. Comes in two variants. You can see here in front of you, there's the black dial, which is like a polished black finish, or there's the sunray blue dial option as well. So maybe on to the next slide, Andy, and we can get in depth and we can actually show the watches off because we have them live here. But yes, we've got this watch. It is an amazing bit of kit for the money, powered of course by this K3 that we're talking about, coming in at of course under 10 millimeters because that's something that we really do push for. We also have lots of features. Yes, slim. We've got our very well regarded micro adjust clasp on there. The watch that first had that on it was the Super Seed, but it's been on every new release that's had a bracelet since then. And of course, it's 96 hours of power reserve. We did maybe not mention that, but 96 hours is the power reserve of this caliber. We talked about the two options. And of course, this price point, 2,750 Swiss francs, almost half the price of anything that we've been able to offer up to this point. That's because everything we've used so far is powered by that micro rotor, and it's a very fine movement, of course, but this does allow us to get into this super competitive price point. Deliveries are going to start from June, so that is obviously a big thing. So we're not too far away from there yet, literally within a couple of months. But Andy, let's get the cameras on.
Yeah,
let's get the cameras on and show them. So you can go first because I believe you've got the blue one.
I have the blue one here with me. Wait, Black Magic is waiting for us here.
There we go. So yes, we have the blue dial on display now that Andy has got with him. This is, of course, in the 316L stainless steel case. You've got a mix of brushing and polishing on there. So you've got the brushed bezel.
Used, as you see, yeah.
Of course, all watches that Andy wears are heavily used within 10 seconds of Andy wearing them. But yes, you've got the brushed bezel, you've got the brushed sides on the flanks of the case, and you've got the polished sections on the tops of the lugs. The bracelet is a mix of polishing and brushed. You've got the brushed center links and the polished outer links, and we've got that 10 millimeter micro adjust clasp. Not just one 10 millimeter jump, you've got 10 individual 1 millimeter increments on there as well. And of course, you can adjust it by closing it whilst it's on your wrist. It equates to roughly 2 links of the bracelet. So you've got a huge amount of adjustment going on there as well. But as you can see here, we've got a live real watch. This is the blue or sunray blue dial. And it does have a kind of bluey, almost little hint of green in there as well. Yeah. And he's now showing off the clasp, of course. And that clasp has got the easy adjust on the inside. You can see the little bit you push with your finger. It's fully open at the moment, and Andy can probably push it in the way. And you've got 10 millimeter increments as it pushes in. So that is a super adjustable clasp on there. Means, of course, that if you are somewhere hot like Texas, and it gets warm in the day and colder at night, you can adjust that bracelet to suit something that still so many watches in the market don't come with, is a good quality adjustable clasp on a bracelet watch. So that is the blue dial one that Andy's got. Maybe Andy can flick the stages over and I will show the black dial. If Andy can change the screen.
Yeah.
And this is the black dial one.
That I've got. I have a new scene for you, just for you.
There we go. So David is showing off the black dial one there as well. And maybe you can see something in this one where you've got that red O-ring that holds the crystal in place. And it's very subtle, but you do have a red tinted anti-reflective coating on the glass of this one as well, whereas it's a blue coating on the one that Andy has. Yeah, mine, as you can see here, is not all beaten up and scratched because mine has been used as a photo sample, but you can see here the very thin clasp on there as well, which is extremely thin. The bracelet actually tapers from 22 millimeters at the lug down to 16 millimeters at the bracelet clasp there as well. And if I pop it off this little cushion, maybe we can see, if I turn mine over, the adjustment here. There we go. If we're clicking it in, mine's still got the paper on it. And you can see there. So that's it fully in. And if we put my thumb here and we move it out, you can see we've got around 2 full lengths of adjustment. So lots of adjustment. This one is a pre-production sample. So the rotor on this one, whilst it's got the finishing, doesn't have the correct coloration.
We want to have a look
this
at that crazy rotor. It's just stay in with your camera, because
so there we go.
I can have both here, you know. I mean,
so I can turn that round, and let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so that you can see closely. I will get my fingers out
okay
of the
on
road.
your side. It's good for mine. I just show
and if
what is production.
And there we go.
Insanely cool finish.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Really nice. And Andy's got a great, so there we go, he's zoomed right in. So such a cool finish. In fact, Andy, how's that done? Is that done with a bit of laser work? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually femtosecond laser structured in 2 directions. And that means when you have that the light coming from one side, you see the edge, and from the other side, you actually don't see it. So
yeah,
it's a pretty cool. That's something you cannot do in a conventional way. Yeah, that is something you need technology to do that. And in this case, laser technology. Yeah, you see now when I'm zooming out.
There we go.
And then it looks like actually it's reflecting a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, dependent now it's nearly gone. And when I'm coming back, it's coming back. It's pretty cool, I have to say.
So there is the introduction of the watches. That is a great looking finish on there as well. So yes, hopefully my sample will have the finished production rotor on there in the near future. We are getting close to actually begin the production, because since we launched, it's been a phenomenally successful launch for us. We are blown away by the support that our clients and community have given us. It's been absolutely amazing, the uptake in this. Color-wise, there was a big debate which one was going to be the most favoured. Was it going to be 50-50? As it stands, the blue has got a very slight lead over the black. We thought the blue might have a bigger lead actually, but actually it's turned out that I think round about 60-65% have gone blue, with the remaining balance going for the black. But the black could still catch up very easily, because the black does have a slightly more subtle look to it. Maybe it's something that's a little bit more reserved, whereas the blue is certainly a little bit more punchy with that sun ray effect on there as well. So you can see them both live here. I think these are looking absolutely excellent in my opinion. I love the little color touches, and maybe hopefully this blue here shows you can just see the blue. There you go. You see the blue O-ring in Andy's.
Yeah.
There you can just see it. And you can just see the writing there. Andy was trying to capture this earlier, but inside the flat rehot ring of this watch as well, there is some engraving there, Andy, and you can just see it when you had it on the camera angle. So what does that actually say on the inside of the bezel? Can you remember?
Try another. It says silicon inside, Switzerland, BLBN, but we have more camera stuff here. I tried it before.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that again. Where are we? Here. So
we're coming up. We're looking into it, and I think we can maybe zoom up and just see it.
Yeah.
Andy's working hard on the microscope camera to get it working. Oh, he's zoomed so far in we could see every hair in his arm now. And let's see what comes up. Yes. There we go. I can see BLBN showing on there. I can just capture it on there on the camera. So really nice little touch, and that's on both the blue dial and the black dial, and it's come into focus there. So that's a nice little hidden Easter egg on there. If you know what you're looking for, you can find it. So that really is a pretty hopefully solid introduction to the watch. And of course, a question we get asked often, Andy, is why is it called the DECAFLUX? So I'm going to ask it for you. So maybe we can scoot on to the next slide and we can go through some of the questions we've been asked by a lot of people. Of course, one of them being, why is it called the DECAFLUX? So, Andy, why is it called the DECAFLUX?
So let's, okay. There was actually a slide about the whole silicon stuff. Yeah. And silicon is something which enabled us to make what we do today. And silicon primarily has several advantages. I think we all know about that, but primarily it is non-magnetic, anti-magnetic. And I have always been a fan of electric vehicles, of all things magnetic, and have been following that. I have been in another industry called the bicycle industry, which was completely disrupted by electric motors. You know that, I know that, we have been both in that world. And I have been following all this for a long time. And for me, since 2010, or probably a little bit earlier, we are living in the decade of the magnetic flux. We are living actually in the decade of electrification. And electrification and motors always come with magnets. And so we thought, and so this is the one thing. And the other part of the story is there's one product, in my opinion, my personal, not very important opinion, that which I liked very much, and that was from the Crown, the Milgauss, which is discontinued. Okay, and since we are making actually products by ourselves, it is impossible to buy someone else's product. So what you have to do is then you have to do it by yourself. And we said, okay, we would like to pay tribute to a product which is effectively a Rolex Milgauss, and this product came to life caused by the need of some engineers in the CERN, that very big accelerator in Geneva, 27-kilometer circle, where we accelerate particles and do basic physics. And these are done with a lot of magnets, and regular watches have not been really useful down there because they were magnetized. And so they were actually making that watch at this time. When was it? 1953 or something like this? 60?
53, 54, yeah, something in that
And then they
area.
made actually a watch with a soft iron core, which deviates the magnetic field lines, which is actually the flux, yeah, around the core, so that the hairspring does not get magnetized. And that was how this watch was born. And so we thought we are now living in the decade of magnetism because of the decade of electrification, and we call it Deca Flux, the decade of the magnetic flux. What is magnetic flux? It's actually the field lines going through a field, and that's what you see. Usually it's invisible, yeah, but when you put some iron stuff there, then you will see that these lines are actually defining the magnetic field, and the density of these field lines create actually the amount of magnetism someone is exposed to or a product is exposed to. And that's what the watch is called. So it has a lot of backstory, a lot of history behind it. On the one hand, inspired by the only watch which I think I would personally buy, but doesn't exist anymore. And since I make watches, I cannot buy someone else's watches. I have to do them. Second thing is we have been doing silicon for all this time. Silicon is the modern way of doing such a product. And I would bet, let me just bet, and I don't know it, I would bet when Rolex is relaunching a Milgauss, it will have a full silicon spec. 100%. What would you say?
I think I've got to agree. It's probably the modern answer to the question that was asked many, many years ago. In fact, 70 years ago. And of course, silicon didn't exist in watches then. I think we also wanted to, as well as pay tribute, to say if we were asked to solve a similar problem today, how would we solve it? And of course, silicon is the answer. And again, back then when that watch was launched, maybe the brand was slightly different to what it is now. They were predominantly producing tool watches and watches for scientists and watches for divers. And that was the very epitome of a proper tool watch. And it was reasonably attainable by people if they put their mind to it. And we wanted for today's market to produce a watch that had a similar type of ethos behind it, something that was attainable to most people if they decided they would like one to put their mind to it, and that would, as Mandy mentioned, survive the everyday magnetism that's out there now. Post Second World War, magnetism has slowly but surely been increasing around us in everyday life, whether it's transmission of electricity, whether it was motors, whether it was science, but it's only really in the last 10, 15, 20 years that it has almost begun to exponentially increase. Motors and magnetism is everywhere. We've all got cell phones in our pocket. We've all got laptops. We've all got iPads. More and more of us now have electric cars or hybrid cars. In the coming years, we'll probably only be in electric cars. And that means that there are motors and magnetism all around us. Do we have to be able to survive massive magnetic fields that might only be found in the deepest, darkest science labs? No. But what we do need to all be able to survive is being able to use the thing that we all love, mechanical watches, and know that it's just safe and secure in an everyday, highly magnetized environment. And that's what I hope we think we've produced with this DECAFLUX watch, a watch that you can put on and you really don't need to worry too much about what's going to happen to it in and about your daily life.
And then the whole hand thing makes sense, you know. Why does that hand actually come up in blue and red, and why does it have an error? Because it is inspired by that, and it also is everything 100% transparent, and it was from the first day clear that we would never ever hide that we paid tribute to a famous watch from someone else. It's a tribute.
Nope. Absolutely. They were pioneering, and we believe that, you know, there are moments in time. You could argue, like the tourbillon, for example, if it wasn't for Breguet, there would possibly be no tourbillon out there. And again, all tourbillons made since then ultimately are paying tribute to the work that was done by them many hundreds of years ago. And we just felt this was a watch that's now 70 years old, has been out of the marketplace for a few years now, and we felt that it was definitely a watch worthy of, you know, tipping your hat to it, as we all wear hats, of course, and saying that was a job well done and a solution well found in its time.
And it was a very controversial watch all the time. Yeah, I mean, either you hated it or you loved it.
And it's a watch that for
the only
many years,
watch I would have bought.
Yeah, but weirdly, for the last part of its life, was a bit of a kind of misplaced watch within the overall range of that brand, because it didn't really have a home anymore. But yes, that's what we very much want to do with it. But it's very different in many ways in terms of, you know, it's by far in a way not a direct copy, lots of Horage DNA in there, and of course our own in-house caliber. And at that price point, I think one would agree that it is a much more attainable watch for many people than maybe things that are being produced by that brand these days.
A couple of very nice pictures, by the way, here from.
So these some pictures. One of our photographers over in Taiwan actually has had some samples and has put together some nice lifestyle photographs.
The vintage guy,
Andy's just showing it. He is. He likes a vintage watch, doesn't he? So Kenny has done these photographs for us, and some really nice photographs nonetheless that he's put together. So yes, these are looking really good. That is what's going on there. You've also got some other pictures, I think, that talk about the DECAFLUX, haven't you?
Yeah. Wait a second.
And he's flicking through a million different slides. There we go.
Yeah, there's another
both
thing
watches
to the
together.
name, you know?
That picture you've got together, I think, really does them justice. It shows the difference between the two colorways there. So yes, very similar, but one definitely slightly more reserved, and you can, I think, hopefully see the red O-ring and the blue O-ring on those two watches there.
There, you see it there.
There we go,
and
looking
that's
good.
Not
and
CGI.
then, yeah, that's a real photograph there of the writing that's engraved into the inside of the Rehot ring. Yep,
Why
not
do
a
we
CGI.
say SI2, by the way? We probably also should clarify that. SI2, it doesn't really exist in chemical thing, but it was due to Marcus that he said we need to have a little bit of a marketing thing in here. So we choose not only SI, we choose SI2, because the two main components in the regulating system, the hairspring and the escapement system, are both made of silicon, and that's why it's called SI2.
There we go. So that's the reason for SI2. Yeah, everything
has a reason. Everything has a reason. Yeah, look at that crazy shot.
That's a cool photograph. And you can maybe see there, you see the reflection on that black dial, because the black dial, as we mentioned, is a polished black finish.
Yeah.
Not Grand Feu, not stone, but a really beautifully finished high polished black on that dial. And you can see the level of reflection that it has. So I think people will agree it's a really strong looking dial. In fact, you can see the reflections there of the BOBN on there as well. Yeah.
Unbelievable
So,
good jobs.
yeah,
It's green blue kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's for sure in the blue spectrum, but it does definitely have a little hint, like if you're looking deep into the blue waters, but it's got that slightly green hue to it, the kind of waters that are in places that we would all like to go on holiday to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice.
There we
That
go.
was a
So
nightmare to
excellent.
make that error just with one thing, you know. It
Yeah,
took
definitely.
unbelievable much time to figure out how to make that thing point to the right direction.
Yep, there we
Yeah,
go. So
nice.
that is that. And of
But
course,
there's
you'll
another
notice on the
thing to
dial.
that name, huh?
Well, you'll notice on the dial, it does say, if you zoom out a little bit there, Chronometer
Yeah.
officially certified. And that's because all of the K3 movements are fully COSC certified as well. So you can be assured that they're running within that -4+6 window, and each of them are individually certificated as well. So that is something that is definitely not that commonly found at this price point in the market either. But it's something that we felt we wanted to do because it proves that we do have the level of engineering and workmanship in this caliber that really does make it stand head and shoulders above many of the competition.
Yeah, that's the blue thing here. You see it.
Yeah,
There's so much to see in that thing, you know, because a lot of subtle details which you can detect all the time. Although it's a very simple watch.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's essentially a time-only watch. You've got the hour, minutes, and center seconds hand there.
That's how it looks
That
on the
said,
wrist. But
we
still have
should
something
maybe
to say.
just, well, we should also say the K3, although this one is quite simple in the regard that it's time in seconds, the caliber is also built with date function in mind. And the other thing you can have, if you wish, is you could have a small seconds on the K3 caliber, and you can also have a power reserve indicator, which would show on the case back. Albeit these features are not on this DECAFLUX model, but future models from us with the K3 caliber in it will surely exhibit some of those features.
I cannot show with my camera here this level of detail. I'm
Nope.
not yet spec'd in this level.
No, you need, I think, pretty high-powered cameras to do that in the studio live. But there we go. So you were going to say, there we go. There's the really good picture of the caliber with this granny finish on it and all the details on there. So yeah, it's a fine looking modern caliber.
Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. And Andy's got a few different pictures on there as well, which I think he's zooming in on it.
Crazy.
Yeah. Super nice. And then you wanted to say a bit more about the DECAFLUX name, Andy?
Yeah, the name. Actually, the name. I mean, the name we clarified, but what does it remind all of us? I think in our, when was it?
Well, I think someone in one of the reviews that was put out, I believe it might have been Fratello who did a review of the watch. Someone in their comments section did make a little bit of an in-joke to see if we managed to catch on. Maybe talking about a famous film from the, was it the 90s or the early 2000s, I think it was. Something about where we go, we don't need roads. But yes, obviously we have said to anyone, though, if anyone does wish to do a trade, we would happily trade one of our new DECAFLUXes for a DeLorean. Doesn't need to be the one from the movie, but we would happily trade for a DeLorean if anyone is up for that little trade.
In German, it said Fluxkompensator. I mean, I will never forget that thing when the flux capacitor, and for the German, it was the Kompensator. It's I love that thing, and I will never forget how the guy actually put the banana into it. I need fuel.
Feed it a banana,
Yeah,
because bananas
feed it a banana,
feed.
but I didn't find in my gift collection. I didn't find the banana. That was the problem. But I found that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes,
there it is.
There we go. That is the moment. And I
This
tell you,
is,
I bet there was a bit of magnetism going on when that happened.
yeah, definitely. Yes,
Yeah,
this
so
one.
maybe that would be the perfect
need fuel.
watch for them. Yeah, we need fuel. A banana will do the trick.
And we
I think
need
that might have
we
been
need
one
we
of the.
need lasers, you know. At the end of the day, we
Yeah.
need lasers.
Oh, we've also got the meme of freaking lasers. Yes, we've also got that as well. Because of
I
course,
have
if we
everything
didn't
here.
have if we didn't have the lasers, we wouldn't have that decoration on that rotor. So yeah,
Yeah.
Andy is having a field day. He gets to use every meme that he has on his computer at this point in time.
Including
so
your
a
personal
happy.
one, you know, your personal one.
Here we go. Yeah, David doing jumps on his bike. That's always a painful moment. But yeah, so there we go. So what else have we got to cover before we round this out? Because we've been going a good 50 minutes yet, and hopefully
Yeah.
we've covered stuff, but we do have a couple of
can
other
look
little
more.
bits we want to fill in. So if you can flick on the presentation there, Andy.
Yeah. Wait a second. I need to
Reset.
People, it's all about people here.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
This
we're
is the
here.
one. And I think this is an important point, and we've actually seen a few comments in the chat about this as well. And we mentioned, obviously, at the very top of the show that we are, of course, out and about at events. And yes, we are a brand that is predominantly direct to market, but we do try to get to as many events as we can because people love trying watches on. And that's one of the challenges, is getting folk to see our watches. So we are getting to as many events as we can. And I mentioned there's going to be an events page on the website, but in this presentation, until that goes live, we can give you a bit of an update. But yeah, it really is about people. It's very important to us that we get out to talk to you, let you see our watches, and just
Shall I bring
engage
up
with you.
that date stuff?
Yep, you
Yeah.
could bring that up, Andy. Yep.
Good. So probably make that bigger.
So we've got, if you go full screen maybe with that one, Andy.
Yeah.
So yep, that is the events calendar. There may be the odd event that we add into this as the year goes on as well. But yep, there's quite a few events coming up. In fact, the next one
Frankfurt.
is you're going to be, I believe, in Frankfurt. The Asia events, I think, are probably going to slide to slightly later in the year. We were hoping to maybe look at April, but probably later in the year. But then for sure, May will be at San Francisco Windup. And then I will be a mere 1 kilometre from my residence in Glasgow to go to a new show, the Glasgow Watch Show, that's been put on by the Watch Collector Club. Then we also have in June, Hands-on Horology. That's going to be an event run by the guys at Oracle Time. They've always been great fans of ours and always been really willing to look at our products and review it. In fact, in the next print edition of Oracle Time, there's going to be a tech-focused issue, and they're going to be looking at our caliber and talking about it in there. Then we'll be at the Neighborhood Watch Fair. That's in Los Angeles. Then we're off to Chicago in July and Intersect in July also. Then we don't go far from the Atelier in August. We're at home. We're going to play at bikes and watches. So we get to endeavour both of our hobbies. There is a Criterium road race, which I think is maybe in its second or third outing, Andy, in Beale. And we are the timing partner for an event in our hometown that's going to be.
It will be fast. Top speed 63 kilometers per hour around the round circuit.
If any of you have ever watched road racing, so you've watched things like the Tour de France or stage racing or road racing, Criterium racing is a little bit like the mad little brother of road racing, where it's generally a pretty short circuit, circa 1 kilometre to 2 kilometres long, lots of barriers, lots of 90-degree bends, and a general dose of insanity ensues. And people generally have their elbows out. It's rather gladiatorial, but it's excellent fun to watch. And in fact, you don't need to go far. You can find a nice, comfortable seat. You can crack open your beers or your gin and tonics, and you can sit and watch a field of usually somewhere around 50 to 60 people insanely knock themselves out for a couple of hours going around the circuit.
And
it's
we
always
will be
good
there
to watch.
with watches, and people will be able to come to our place, and probably we have a little party there, and so on and so on. So it's probably the first real home event besides our famous garden parties, which are sometimes overcrowded.
Yep. Absolutely. Then September, we are looking into the possibility of getting to the Toronto Timepiece Show. Still to be confirmed on that, but then for sure in October, we're at New York. We're definitely there, and there'll be other events around about that as well. Then, of course, back to Dusseldorf in Germany for the Watch Time show, which we first went to last year. And I think we both can agree that was a great show. Lots of really interested people coming along to that show. Not just Germans, folk coming in from internationally as well. I do remember talking to plenty of UK guys and also plenty of folk from the US at that show. And then towards the end of the year, we have the Watch Pro Salon in London.
Yeah.
And we have, of course, Intersect, and that's the show that will be in Austin, Texas, that we mentioned about. So that does, I was correct in saying November. That's where that show will be as well. So that should round out the year. We will probably be exhausted by that point in time, but we will have seen many, many happy faces, hopefully, and allowed them to have a play with their watches, including, of course, the DECAFLUX, which will get its first outing publicly, properly at the San Francisco show at the very start of May.
Good. That sounds like a plan.
That very almost perfectly rounds us up to nearly the hour, which we've managed to keep the ship on the right course. We've managed to keep afloat. We've even managed to keep our hats on for the entirety of this presentation, which is quite impressive because I'm not a guy used to wearing a hat. It's even still sunny outside here at, well, what is now coming up to 7 o'clock in the UK or 8 o'clock in Switzerland. And I'm really pleased you've all joined us. Lenny, before we go, any questions you've marked along the way in the comments that we can quickly answer?
Not that far, no.
Oh, you've been answering them quite well, I believe, as we've gone on.
Yes, I think no questions have been out. Now
Great.
is the last chance for everyone.
Yep, last chance saloon. So you see the reference to the cowboy hat there. Last chance saloon to get any questions in before we round out this one. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact and it's not live anymore, please do drop us an email at lostintime@horage.com with any questions you've got. Of course, you can always jump onto our Instagram, which is @HorageSwiss. Follow us on there to see all of our latest news and releases. And of course, there's a DM feature on Instagram that you can drop us messages as well. We're also always open. We're trying out TikTok. Leo, who has got a couple of days off, he's just taking a little rest after he's been in Dallas, but he is manning the front when it comes to LinkedIn and also to TikTok. We've got the youth on the TikTok issue at the moment as well, because me and Andy are just too old for that TikTok thing. But Leo is
I can just make stupid things in front of the camera. Did you see me beaming myself away with the flux
I did
compensator?
see that. Yeah, he definitely did. Andy was having lots of fun on TikTok, but Leo has taken the reins of that one. And of course, he's doing the slightly more serious business focused posting on LinkedIn. And of course, Leon doing everything that we have on our main social channel, which is Instagram. So you'll be seeing lots of stuff. We've got lots of amazing pictures that we've had through in the last day or so. Sue arranged some photography with Kenny over in Taiwan for the DECAFLUX, and we've got some great pictures. You've seen a few of them today, but there's many more that will be making their way into the public domain over the next few weeks on Instagram. So do keep your eye out for that. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. Any last words, Indiana Jones, before we go? You've got some damsels to rescue and some treasure to put into a vast warehouse.
No.
Okay. That sums up that then. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the internet now and see if I can find myself a DeLorean, because it's put the idea in my head and I might make a very silly purchase on somewhere like eBay this evening.
I think you need it. I anyhow saw your background. You know, we didn't talk about that, by the way.
Yeah.
You changed your inventory. Dave Solo.
My inventory of strange
Before there was
collection.
just a small thing, and now it's an insane amount of stuff. What is it? Robots in there?
Junk that David has collected over the years. Yes. What do we have? We have the original Sony Aibo, early AI technology in a robot. In fact, I think his brother is sitting down here over here as well. That's his newer brother. We've of course got watches, we've got cameras, we've got spacey things. Yeah, David has got a large collection of junk that nobody needs, but I thought I may as well put it on the shelves behind me. We've even got some SR71s poking their noses out up above me. So yes, as you get older, you collect junk in life, and I can't ever throw anything out because I love to collect stuff. But there we go. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've got a bit of information about the watch. And of course, remember, the watch is still in its second phase. 2,750 is the final retail price. It is currently on its pre-order price of 2,625 Swiss francs. That is valid up until 2 p.m. Swiss time on Friday this week, which I believe is the 28th. So if you want to get into that pre-order queue and get one of the first production batch that's due to come to market in June, now's the time. Get on and about it, and hopefully you can do that.
That was the fastest movement and watch we brought to market.
And
watch not
delivery
watch
is
not.
super fast.
I mean, there's another story behind that which will come out in 10 years from now. What was the real story behind it?
Let's not go there, Andy. Let's not upset the chickens. It's evening time. They're settling down for the evening. We don't need drama. So yes, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And that's us on the hour mark now. So
is it
all
finished?
To say is,
do I have to press that button? Okay.
You have to press that button. I know you want to go on, but what we are going to say is we will be back soon. Might even be back in maybe, I would say, 2 weeks maximum from now with some more updates, because there's some big micro reg news coming up. Production prototype 2 is coming on stream, and the next stream I think is probably going to do a bit of an update on micro reg, because we've got a lot of customers who've got orders in for that watch, and I'm sure they're desperate.
Thanks to everybody, by the way, supporting that, and we are working hard. Currently there's a big war on how actually a device needs to be controlled, the little device, but we will talk about that. And I think I will invite Markus at this next meeting, and we battle it out.
So I will be wearing my boxing referee outfit, and we'll have Andy in the red gloves, and we'll have Markus in the blue gloves, and we can have everyone in the comment section heckling, and we see what the results are at the end. Lenny will be the paramedic technician who will have to cart off whoever loses.
Lenny, you need to.
I can already tell you who's going to lose. My betting money is definitely on Markus winning this battle.
Okay, we are overdue. So 2:08. I need to stop that now.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Join us next time.